Hi, my name is Andrew Cunningham. I'm a primary care physician at One Medical Group in San Francisco, and I have a background in family medicine and an interest in integrative medicine. I chose to be a doctor because I really like to work with people. I like to communicate one-on-one, and I'm also just very interested in the human body. The chance to be able to do all of those things every day of my life, work with people, teach them how to take care of themselves, and feel like I can have a satisfying career seemed like the right way to go for me. The term integrative medicine is used a lot these days to encompass really any type of treatment plan that might work for a particular problem and honors the body's own ability to heal itself. I found that studying Eastern medicine has been an excellent way for me to hold on to that principle of the body healing itself and can work really well with the Western mind that I was trained in with school. About 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to go to China and Tibet to study traditional Tibetan medicine. We primarily studied the basic philosophy of Tibetan medicine, as well as seeing treatments in practice and side trips to collect medicinal plants and things like that. When I hear the word Chinese medicine, I think about several words and images that come to mind. Yin and Yang, which are two aspects of very important principle in Chinese medicine. Balance of environmental elements, as those are part of what we're looking at to diagnose and make treatments for people in Chinese medicine. I also think about fusion of Eastern medicine with Western medicine. And right now we're in a time when that's happening in a lot of places, and I hope that it will continue to happen. On this upcoming trip, I'll be going to Anhui, China for 2 weeks to learn from a traditional Chinese medicine master named Li Jiren. I think this upcoming trip holds a lot of opportunity for me, both professionally and personally. It sort of flows with my ambition to spend time with a lot of different healers from different backgrounds and have their influence actually inform the way that I not only take care of my patients, but take care of myself. Personally, I really enjoy travel as well, and going to a new area of China, meeting some new people, experiencing new foods and a different culture will also be pretty thrilling. I'm extremely excited about this trip. I felt grateful to be walking around with somebody who's really a living legend. Master Li reminds me of a country doctor that we all wish we had. Somebody who really treats you as family. I really aspire to be that type of doctor. Master Li's really still pioneering research and pushing the envelope to help develop the future of traditional Chinese medicine. I'm here at Anhui University Hospital, the university where Master Li trained. This hospital incorporates both Western medicine and traditional Chinese medicine all under the same roof. Walking into the traditional Chinese medicine wing of the hospital was, in ways, some things that I expected and some other things that were pretty surprising to me. The techniques were all things that, I've either learned about or practiced a bit myself or heard of. There was some Tui Na, which is a therapeutic massage technique. There were a lot of people lying around with acupuncture needles in them for probably 20 or 40-minute long treatments. The amazing thing here is how many people are actually getting acupuncture treatments all at the same time in the same room. That's something that's unique to a Chinese medicine hospital. You wouldn't see that in an American doctor's office. The doctors there also seemed quite satisfied and well known by all the patients there. I noticed that they were really facile with needles. They were able to get several points procured very quickly, maybe put 10 or 15 needles in somebody within a minute. So when I first walked into the hospital today, I recognized a really strong aroma of burning mugwort. So this herb is used for a technique called moxibustion, which is often applied to a patient's body or waved over acupuncture points as a way of bringing heat into the body. So one of the patients that was there had low back pain, which is a very common problem, and they were using cupping. So doctor basically lights a little bit of alcohol on fire to create heat inside a cup, which is then very quickly applied onto the skin of the patient. And if you put multiple of those cups on the back of somebody, that'll help draw out inflammatory heat and leave the person feeling better. So
you get the same effect as you would maybe from massage, but it's just a different technique.
So this is a physical therapy room in the hospital, and there's some people probably that have had a stroke in here. This man's getting some work done on his shoulder. There's some people doing some light exercises on the other side of the room. This is a pretty familiar scene to a Western hospital.
It's beautiful to see both of these types of medicine, which have quite different philosophies, used together. And I hope that that trend will sort of cross the ocean, and we'll see people doing that kind of thing in America as well, where you could get acupuncture treatments while you're in the hospital being treated for a kidney stone, for example. One of the really interesting stops on my tour of the hospital was a library where they're helping to preserve and restore ancient texts. I actually had to put on special booties and white gloves to walk in there.
I'm in the ancient Chinese medical text labyrinth. Tons of amazing old books. So this is a special collections area of the university library. And all these ancient texts are preserved in a temperature-controlled room. This book is more than 100 years old, and is from the Qing dynasty. Unfortunately, I can't read it. But if I could, I'm sure I could spend hours perusing some of these old medical texts.
Some of these books are 500 years old. Some of them are from the era of the Ming dynasty. You can look through the books and see hand-painted pictures of herbs that have been used for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. These are still the same plants that we use today. One of the doctors who helps work as a librarian of sorts at that place said Master Li continues to go back there regularly, not only to help take part in this restoration project, but also to study the ancient texts. And that's probably what makes him such a highly regarded doctor, because he's still looking at some of the oldest clinical information and probably finds use in incorporating that into his practice and passing that tradition on. So one of the important lineages of the traditional Chinese medicine tradition is the Xing'an tradition, in which Dr. Li is considered a cultural heir or a master of. And it was beautiful to see some of the old textbooks from that lineage preserved in the library there.
So the Xing'an medical tradition arises from 668 clinics spread throughout 6-county region. Those clinics are responsible for contributing 446 publications to the traditional Chinese medicine literature. What's really impressive is the Xing'an medical tradition has produced 16 personal physicians for the imperial court. Hefei, a city about the size of Los Angeles that's in eastern China. This city is home to 13 universities, many famous scientists, Nobel Prize winners, and one of the best medical schools in all of China. It's a really rapidly growing place. I think only 10 years ago it was surrounded by a lot of rice farms, and everywhere you look now there's construction and tall buildings. So even in a rapidly growing city like Hefei, where you have 3.5 million people living in the urban area and 5.5 million people in the whole metro region, I mean, that's the same population that you get in the whole state of Maryland. So this place is growing fast, but traditional Chinese medicine is still as popular as ever. Walking into the Chinese herb shop was a really beautiful surprise. The most powerful of Chinese medicines were sort of put into fancy packaging, and I was able to walk around and actually pull open the drawers, smell the herbs that were in there, see which ones that I recognized. I recognize this plant. This is horsetail, or equisetum. You'll see this growing in wet areas in your garden in California. Got to be careful that it doesn't take over, but it can be used as a medicine, and it's good for the urinary tract.
And also see the pharmacists that were putting together formulas, kind of measuring everything out and wrapping it up in bundles for patients that had come in to actually take that with them on their way out. I recognize several of these herbs, like ginseng.
So this one is one of my favorites. This is ginseng, or Eleutherococcus is the Latin name. Ginseng is used by many different cultures also as a way of sort of supporting the body's energy. It's not really a stimulant, but it's not a sedative either. It just helps to keep everything sort of in good working order in the body.
So it was really exciting to see some of the medicinal mushrooms on display at the herb shop.
Cordyceps sinensis. This is a very fascinating and very expensive medicine. These most likely were collected up in the mountains of China or Tibet maybe by people who maybe were on their hands and knees all day long and found maybe 20 of these. This stuff costs more than gold by the ounce. Cordyceps is used to give vitality. Very commonly will be taken by older people to give them more energy, but it can be taken by younger people as well, and it's gonna help pretty much anybody support their foundational energy. Okay, so I recognized this mushroom right away when I walked in, and I was excited to see it in the medicine shop. I know this medicine as turkey tail. This grows on logs outside of my yard. So if you go walking around in the woods of California or Kentucky or China, you're gonna find this growing. You can actually just pick it up and chew it, as some people do when they're mushroom hunting. But it's actually been studied and used as a cancer medicine. There's some good studies that have come out of Japan using it for a type of chemotherapy, actually.
In Asia, they've been used for thousands of years as medicines to help stimulate your immune system. Also went into a regular Chinese medicine pharmacy, which wasn't entirely different than one you might see in the States. I recognized some of the same medicines. They were a little bit cheaper, but the selection was pretty much the same. So we're used to seeing pharmacies pretty much everywhere in America. And here you will see those types of pharmacies, but you'll also find herb shops where you go in and buy, a bag of traditional Chinese medicine herbs to make as a tea. It's been an amazing day so far. I mean, lots of great opportunities, visiting an herb shop, going to a hospital where Master Li trained and has educated several people in his lineage of Chinese medicine, seeing a clinic and a pharmacy where he still actually sees patients a couple days a month. Such an interesting story, a guy coming from pretty humble beginnings, starting to become very interested in ancient texts and following local doctors in his village at a young age. Reminds me a little bit about my grandfather, for example, who also grew up very poor on a farm and then practiced in the mountains of Kentucky and West Virginia and had a very long career, very similar to Master Li. This all makes me just very eager to meet the man himself, because he certainly is very highly respected around here, and I think he'll be able to answer some questions that might be sort of burning in my mind.
Master Li lives, works, and continues to teach in this town. Students from all over China come here to study traditional Chinese medicine. So it's my second day in China. As you can see, the weather's beautiful. And today I had a really great tour of the Li Jiren Hospital in Huizhou, China. This is the hospital where Master Li is working. I'm in the Li Jiren Hospital lobby. Behind me is the pharmacy where people are picking up both pharmaceuticals and traditional Chinese herbs. And right behind me on this side, you'll see the doctor's schedule for the day. Looks like it's going to be a really busy day. Tons of people here. I feel like I'm in a train station. He seems like quite a famous doctor. I feel like every building that I've gone in, there's a plaque with pictures of him speaking to famous politicians and other important people. I was able to meet one of Master Li's daughters, Li Jiren, who was seeing patients on a pretty busy pace today. Watching Li Jiren do her consultations in the office reminded me a little bit of a typical day in my office, where somebody comes in, explains all the symptoms, and then we make a treatment plan together. One of the things that is different in one of her consultations from mine is that she doesn't even use an exam table. Most of her diagnosis is done through pulse. A sensitive Chinese medicine doctor can really get a lot of information by using their fingertips to get the pulse. It's not supernatural in any way. They go through a lot of training in medical school to learn how to use these pulses. And she didn't use a stethoscope to listen to their heart and lungs and really do much besides just her fingertips and observation of the tongue and the overall patient vitality.
One of the most exciting parts of the day was speaking to one of the patients of Li Jiren and asking him for what types of conditions he might seek traditional Chinese medicine versus modern medicine.
是慢性病啊，到中医比较多。那感冒啊，那么是有时的是病啊，就看西医比较多。还有其他的有是需要动手术的呀，啊。
I spoke with one of Master Li's colleagues who's known him for over 40 years and got an idea about how he's been able to gain so much respect among his peers.
在我们在这个范围里面，就是在我们省内，他的会商是突出的。在医疗方面，在住宿礼寿方面，在我们讲的穿帮带，就是继承发扬祖国医药遗产方面，都起到一个非常好的作用。 起个模范的作用。
你好吗？你好，很高兴见到你。I finally met Master Li today. He carries a really positive energy and his smile is infectious. I told him that I was studying Chinese medicine, and we had a mutual agreement that cultural exchange of information is critical for lifelong learning of medicine.
我们中医啊，叫祖国医学，到现在有5000年历史的。我们古早的研究不是比较多嘛，其实与中医的根老分不开的，因为在历代来讲啊，以前没有西医啊，全是中医。所以说呢，我们中医在这个保健事业啊，在历史中是写上功非常大的意义的。
In our first conversation, he explained to me how he came to be called Li Jiren, which means using a kind heart to save the world. You're living your name. Knowing that he's such an important teacher to many people, I asked him who his teacher was.
我这个学习啊，主要是治学为主。 自己学习，另外呢，我在以前啊是一开始去学私塾，就去学孔子这一套，以后再学医的，从这个13年到18年，这个5、6年中间啊，在学医。我那个学医呢，是跟我们那个县里大大有名的一个钟根贵。
As you might imagine from a typical master in China, he even told me about lessons learned from Confucius.
就是讲根据孔子讲什么，学是实际的不言文化啊，就是学呢要思，要反复的要思考。另外一点呢，就是学的有的东西中医的学啊，学的要办，就是你个药学啊。 不言千番读，你读1000遍、100遍，不言你速读这个药书啊，你可以到理解清楚了。
We walked from his office to the area where we went to see patients together. He immediately included me in the learning of the team of doctors that he took around seeing patients. The first patient we saw had what we call a TIA, or a mini stroke. And that gave Master Li an opportunity to teach me a little bit more about pulse diagnosis. He explained to me that pulse can be described as fast, slow, heavy, or floating. Standing next to Master Li reminded me of standing next to some of the best teachers I've had in medicine. He was really persistent in wanting me to understand the finer points of diagnosis that he was teaching me. He grabbed my hand and actually had me put my fingers on this patient so that I could feel the pulse and better understand what was going on with that patient. It was really fun to get some hands-on practice with the patients in the hospital. I feel really grateful knowing that this very famous doctor has taken time out of his schedule to teach me. Even spending only one day with him so far makes me understand that he's a really good mentor, and I'm going to learn everything I can from him while I have the opportunity to be here. So we're coming to the end of my second day in China, and I think the next few days holds a lot of learning potential. It's my third day in China, and I had a chance to spend some time with Master Li learning about herbs and some of his practices. We started off the day at the medical school museum, where they have a lot of different plant specimens that he was able to teach me about. One of the first things we saw when we walked into the museum was a sculpture that had several of the most important acupuncture points. Master Li told me that he learned on a similar model and that model of teaching dates back to the Ming Dynasty. He showed me on my body some of the ones that are most important to learn initially in a student's training. The one here between the thumb and the forefinger is really well known, even among people who don't know anything about Chinese medicine, as a treatment for headache, for example. Next, we walked into a room where there were hundreds of plant specimens preserved, either dried or in jars of the fresh, above-ground plant parts in some sort of preservative. The first herb that Master Li pointed out to me today is a dried red flower that grows in Tibet. The next thing he pointed out to me was cordyceps. The Chinese name for it is winter worm, summer grass, which describes the life cycle of the organism. Cordyceps is a widely treasured Eastern medicine remedy, and Master Li told me that he actually takes it himself. I was excited to ask Master Li some questions about astragalus, which is a Chinese herb that I've actually grown in my garden and commonly recommend to patients with depleted immune systems. Another one of my favorite Chinese remedies is lineage, also known as the reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom use dates back thousands of years, and you'll find it also popular in Japan, China, and now increasingly popular in America. Reishi mushroom is popular for cancer treatment, actually, something that it's not really used for in America. One of the more controversial topics in modern botanical medicine is the use of animal parts. Master Li told me that he does use animal parts in his formulas, and he explained to me tortoise shell goes into some of the formulas he uses. So Master Li told me that he knows probably 1,000 herbs, but only uses 300 to 500 of them in his practice. I told Master Li that I know probably 50 or so herbs and only use maybe 20 of them in my practice. And he gave me a thumbs up, so I feel pretty encouraged about that. Maybe by the time I'm his age, I will know 1,000 plants. I could spend days myself just walking around and looking at the names of plants and learning to identify them. But having the master himself there to explain to me the different uses, I think was a real treasure. And everything he taught me today, I don't think I'll ever forget. This morning I was excited to go to the hospital and see Master Li in action. He had a busy patient schedule, probably 30 people in line waiting to see him, in an office full of other doctors, family members of the patients who were there. It was really busy. In the middle of all the hustle bustle of the hospital, it was great to see Master Li sitting at his desk, completely calm, completely focused on the patient that was in front of him. I was able to sit in and listen to his treatment plan for somebody that came in for a cough. After he discussed
the diagnosis and treatment plan with her. I then gave her my perspective. How long have you been coughing now? So we're discussing a cough that she's had for about the past 10 days, and it's been somewhat productive. And she told me she's using 2 medications to treat it. One of which is an antibiotic that she bought over the counter without the recommendation of a physician. And the other one is a cough syrup that contains the same ingredient that's in Mucinex that some people know to help thin mucus, but it's also combined with some herbal extracts like licorice and camphor. Turn around, please. Deep breath. Okay, so I hear really good air movement, no major wheezing. My treatment plan at this stage really would be drinking lots of warm fluids is going to help thin her mucus. A lot of times for coughs, I'll recommend that people use ginger and honey. I'm getting a little nod from Master Li. I also would prescribe probably some herbal syrups in this situation. I like the medicine that she's taking because it has licorice in it, which helps soothe the mucous membranes to help repair the respiratory tissue. Okay, great. Thanks very much. Hope you feel better. Master Li and I have very different diagnostic techniques. He only uses his fingertips as a way of assessing the pulse in several different areas of the body. And that was new for me. I've seen Chinese medicine doctors apply 3 fingers to the wrist here, but he actually checks the pulse in multiple places of the body, like the 2 places on the skull and some other areas of the hand also. I watched him sort of sit there in silence and very thoughtfully write down 16 different treatments. That was unusual for me because typically if somebody comes in with that type of illness, I may write a prescription for 2 medicines, for example. Master Li, can you tell me what your diagnosis for that patient is?
他的白眼是风，血的风引起的。
What did you learn by checking her pulse that helped you?
脉搏有点悬，就悬，风寒引起的影响到肺，肺是最成熟之体啊，因为肺气不利，所以它引起咳嗽。所以我们用现在这个疏风伤寒，就润肺化痰的方法，因为它有点烫。
So what did you prescribe her?
鸡肝啊、青胡啊，都是疏风伤寒的药。这个玉人草啊，丹梨地、大梨地啊，都是润肺化痰的药。
Okay, shishi. One of my favorite things about traveling is eating the local food. I love that eating is such a communal event in China. You sit around a huge table with lots of other friends. There's a big circular lazy Susan in the middle of the table, and the waitresses bring 15 to 20 different dishes for everyone to try. It's not every day that you also get to have a chef come out and tell you about some of his own specialties. It was great to hear sort of the legend or the stories behind all the dishes too. You don't often hear that type of thing about American dishes. One of the dishes that I really love today is called Peasant's Hot Pot. The chef explained to me that it has that name because during the Qing dynasty, the emperor was traveling through the region and got caught in a storm and was forced to stay with some peasants. Not having a lot of fancy foods to provide him, they just threw everything they had into the bowl and he loved it. And ever since then, it's been a popular dish. Another one of the local specialties is what they call Stinky Fish. Every restaurant we go to, it's always presented to me and everybody always wants me to eat it. It also has a great story behind it. The legend says that in the past, traveling businessmen in China, when they left Anhui Province, would really miss the fish that they ate here. So they started to take it with them, and after several days of carrying it around, it really started to stink. That's why it's called Stinky Fish. So the Stinky Fish is sort of a dish by accident. These traveling businessmen who were carrying the rotting fish found that when they cooked it, it actually took on a more interesting flavor, and it really grew in popularity from there. So it does actually taste a lot better than it smells. Has a lot of spices in it too, and the fish
tastes very fresh. One of the other local specialties that's actually in season right now is a small fish that comes out of the Yangtze River. This time of year, the bones are actually soft enough that you can eat the whole fish without having to take it apart. And they actually take the fish, deep fry it, and then eat it as sort of a crispy treat. Looking at this is actually the entire fish, and the bones and the head and everything are tender enough to eat. So this is definitely a new experience for me. The flavor is great though, and the sauce is really delicious. I could probably eat the whole plate of these. So lunch was great, and after 4 hot glasses of green tea and a full stomach, we headed back to the hospital. Even though I've only known Master Li for a couple days, there are some things that I can tell about him already. It's obvious that he really is passionate about teaching, and he's been really hands-on with me. And I was eager to talk to some of the people who have apprenticed with him to get their sense of what his teaching style is. They echoed some of my initial impressions. He has a very patient demeanor. He has a very selfless style that he teaches to the people around him. And I also learned from them that he really tailors his teaching style to each of them individually based upon strengths that he's able to notice in his students. One of the associate professors at the medical school was an apprentice of Master Li's from 1986 to 1989. He explained that it was really rigorous competition to get an opportunity to work with Master Li.
当时有8位学生参加完内学院硕士研究生的考试，我是唯一的幸运者。面试的话呢，也深得李老师的喜爱。
When asked about Master Li's teaching style, one of his apprentices said that she could summarize it in one sentence.
李老师的工作作风可以用1句话来概括：待病人如待家人。
And I think that's something that we've lost as medicine has become more modernized. I really aspire to be that type of doctor. So 2 areas where Master Li's students say that he really excels are in rheumatology and gynecology. I think it's pretty rare to find 83-year-olds still doing a lot of writing, contributing to the medical literature, and developing protocols that probably over the course of the next 2 or 3 years will become standards of care for Chinese medicine. He's really still pioneering research and pushing the envelope to help develop the future of traditional Chinese medicine. Today, Master Li invited me into his house. When I arrived there, I was surprised to see that he lives in a pretty old building in a small community of apartments. And there was really nothing that special about it. It was sort of a typical small neighborhood next to the hospital. There was some plants around. He actually lives on the 4th floor of his building. So he walks up and down those stairs every day, which I think probably gives him a good amount of exercise. If you were one of the most 30 highly revered doctors in America, I feel like you may live in a big house or have signs of success in your living space. Master Li lives in a really modest surrounding, but I can tell that collecting art is a hobby that has given him a lot of pleasure. The most exciting part of it was going into his bedroom. So I'm in Master Li's bedroom, and this is a modest apartment in a busy part of town, actually. When I walked in here, I assumed that there were going to be clothes in all these cabinets, like in my bedroom. Shocked to find hundreds of paintings. He's been collecting art for all of his life, and each one of these drawers is full of more. He got a lot of enjoyment out of showing me some of his favorites. Over here behind the camera, there are 2 more cabinets like this, full of more paintings. The themes that you find in most of his paintings are nature-based. Birds, a lot of different trees, some mountains, landscapes, water animals, fish and turtles and things like that. Talking to Master Li really gave me some insight into his personality and his passions. I know that he really loves to travel, and one of the paintings that he showed me had calligraphy characters that I didn't understand. And he told me that it would describe a man who doesn't have any money but travels all over the country for the pure love of it. Master Li's artwork collection really demonstrates one of the fundamental concepts of traditional Chinese medicine, which is balance and harmony. Most of the times when you see Chinese paintings, there will be water and plants and animals all living in harmony. By looking at his art collection with him, I was really able to see how he appreciates art and how that gives him a way to relax at the end of his day. Looking at the family portraits in his house gave me a much clearer picture of the lineage of medicine that is in his family. He's got 5 children, 4 of them are physicians, and the other one is also in science. So among the family, there are actually 7 professors. Anybody that you talk to about Master Li will mention his really balanced demeanor. He says that there are 4 keys to living a healthy life. The first one is exercise, and I had a chance to see him doing his meditative movements, which he feels help him maintain internal harmony and keep his body healthy. The second key, he says, is to appreciate art and the beauty that lies within. Watching him look at his artwork and share it with me and tell stories about each piece very clearly evokes emotion in him. His third secret to maintaining health is getting deeply connected to nature. There are specimens from nature all over the place. He really is surrounded by nature all the time. Master Li says the 4th and most important secret to health is maintaining harmony in your life. Traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine come from 2 different places. In Western medicine, we see somebody catches an infection, for example, and then we just try to treat that infection. We use antibiotics to kill bacteria, we use antivirals to fight viruses. Chinese medicine has a completely different approach. The goal really is to support the body so that it can heal itself. There are various internal energies that need to be maintained in balance so that the body doesn't become susceptible to disease. It's a more supportive model that heals from a deeper level than just treating the symptoms. Besides collecting art, one of Master Li's favorite hobbies is traveling. He's traveled to many cities all over the world. He's actually been to the United States several times, and I was pretty surprised to hear that Las Vegas is his favorite city there. When you think of a Chinese medicine master, you may think of a very serious man who's calm and pretty boring even. I think the fact that he loves Las Vegas shows that he's got a really fun side and he's really young at heart. I'll take the job. Coming into Huizhou County this morning was amazing. It was really nice to come out to the countryside and see the hills, see the tea plants everywhere, and also just come into Master Li's hometown. This is Dingtan Village in Huizhou County. Huizhou County is the gateway to the Yellow Mountains, and this is Master Li's hometown and where he retreats from the city still. This is where his home is. It's in a really idyllic setting. When we were coming in here, I thought I would love to live in a place like this, surrounded by mountains, vegetables growing everywhere, beautiful valley floor. This is a great place to get close to nature. The new home is a 3-story building that's set on a 1-acre plot. When I first saw the house, it reminded me of a building that you would find at a monastery. When we arrived at the house, my first impression was that there was so much detail everywhere I looked. The walkway into the house, there was a fish that was made out of rocks on the walkway, which is a Chinese symbol of abundance. And I started to pay attention to some of the gardens that were being developed in the front courtyard. This home is a work in progress. Master Li's son, Li Ting, started construction on this home more than 10 years ago. He designed it and thinks that it won't be finished for another 3 years, so it's about a 15-year construction project. Coming into the first floor, there are beautiful wood carvings on the walls. Went up to the 2nd floor, and one of the first things that Master Li showed me was the bed that he and his wife shared right after their marriage. It was their honeymoon bed, and you could tell that it was something that he took a lot of pride in showing me because they have such a beautiful relationship. The top floor of the house, I think, was the most impressive. One of the first places that I went to up there was a big open room that was right in the center of the house. And Master Li explained to me that this is the meditation room. As we walked into his room, I was immediately amazed at this really old, huge poster frame bed. It was redwood, intricately hand-carved all over the place. No actual metal nails or screws or anything holding it together. It was really sturdy. This 300-year-old bed, Master Li says, it's probably nicer than the bed that's in the Forbidden City. On one side, when you look out the window, there are just layers upon layers of mountains. So big dramatic view, tons of natural light coming in, just a beautiful, simple bedroom. Making Chinese dumplings is actually pretty hard. It's definitely a skill that takes some practice. So I learned how to roll out the dough and make circles.
All right, perfect circle.
And then stood around the table with the family, loading them with filling and actually trying to figure out how to fold them properly so that it stayed together. The ones that I made were pretty funny shaped, and it took me until probably my 5th one to make one that I felt proud to show them.
All right, how about that? I'm proud.
I noticed that Master Li is by no means a master of dumpling making either. Some of the ones that he made were even funnier than mine. One of them actually looked like an egg roll instead of a dumpling. Master Li was really insistent that I sit down at the table as the food was coming out.
So we're about to have a huge feast here at the Li household. All the ingredients fresh from the countryside nearby. Master Li actually got out his top shelf liquor to share for the occasion. So we're gonna taste that. Doctor's orders.
I was surprised to learn that Master Li does drink a little bit of alcohol with most of his meals, considering he's a Chinese medicine master, but I guess it's all about balance and moderation. I think it really speaks to his personality, how welcoming he has been to me and how much respect that he's actually given me. I don't feel like I'm necessarily a special guest, but sitting down at the table and him toasting me with the finest liquor that he has in his house just really speaks to his generosity and warmth for everybody that comes into his life.
Yeah. So the dumplings are finished. It's time to give them a try. Looks like all the ones in front of me are ones that were made by professionals, not mine. Very tasty, and they cooked pretty quickly too.
So after lunch, I was surprised when everybody left the room and I was invited in as the last person. When I got up onto the balcony, Master Li was there, and I could tell that he was really excited to talk to me.
你们很辛苦，你到这儿来，我们那个说是正美玉和啊，我送的我们城里的土产，修行送的就是黄山土。
I didn't expect it at all, but he presented me with a painting from his art collection that was so beautiful and representative of the area. When we rolled it out, it was a painting of the yellow mountains nearby that you can see from his bedroom window. And he explained to me that the 3 treasures of this region are the mountains themselves, the clouds that were painted in the background, and the pine trees that were painted in such great detail.
This is a gift for me? I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
I'm a tea lover myself, and I was so grateful also that he presented me with this really high-grade tea from the local mountains. Again, I just feel completely humbled that he's being so generous and giving me these gifts really from his heart.
就是全国4大名茶，黄山毛峰是其中之一。
So this is local tea, huh?
Oh my gosh. There's a really interesting layout to the old family home here. This is where Master Li's son, Li Ting, lives and sees patients still. Every morning he has people from the community come here for treatments. In the front of the house, there's a really beautiful garden where they grow vegetables. It was nice to walk back there with Master Li, and he walked around and watered all of his plants. Walking up to the second floor was pretty surreal for me. I'm completely humbled walking around in here. I study herbs a lot, and I've only been able to recognize a few, and I've opened 90% of these drawers. One that I did recognize is this, which in the West we call horny goatweed. This is a good libido enhancer, and I sometimes recommend this for people as an alternative to Viagra. So it's a good one to know. I had a chance to talk to Master Li's son, Li Ting. Li Ting explained to me some of the features about the Zhang Yitie lineage of Chinese medicine that make it unique.
Zhang Yitie.
Zhang Yitie, if it's translated into English, means strong, precise medicine that should cure the illness in one treatment. There's a pretty atypical structure to Zhang Yitie lineage being passed down. Master Li's wife's father was the 13th heir. Her brother died young. She began to study Chinese medicine at a young age. Her father saw that interest blooming and encouraged it. Master Li came as an apprentice to her father when he was 27 years old. She was 22 at that time. She later married Master Li on one condition, and that condition was that their firstborn son would carry the last name of her family, Zhang. And the two of them are now the 14th cultural heirs of the Zhang Yitie lineage in Chinese medicine. On the walk from the new house to the old house where I am now, you go by the river where Master Li's wife's father lived. That house isn't there anymore because of a flood, but it's still an important historical site in the region. New day, new story. Spoke to his daughter Li Jiren, who I've spent some time with over the last few days. She did explain that she really gained a lot of influence from her mother, but that kindness and that warmth that her patients experience from her, she said, that comes from my dad. She really idolizes her mother as well. So when she was young, she said she basically was on her mom's back. Her mother used to take her up to the mountains to collect medicines. Her mother can identify more than 1,000 medicines when she's walking around in the mountains, actually. Master Li's wife, Jiang Hua, is a really incredible woman. She spent a lot of time following her father around when she was younger because she just was very interested in medicine. She said that her father was impressed by Master Li's ability to always score very high on tests. However, she said that she often scored higher than he did. So sometimes he maybe got an 85 and she would get a 90. Initially, she said that she didn't actually like him that much, but as he started to stay around more studying with her father and studying alongside of her, the whole family came to like him more. But in fact, they came together as an arranged marriage. In those days, there really weren't any female doctors, so she had to work extra hard and also wasn't given any relief from the typical woman chores that were sort of the standard social structure in those days. Because of that, she earned the nickname Iron Lady and gained a lot of respect from people around her. When we were talking about her relationship with Master Li, she pretty much said, well, I stuck with him because of the family, and it's arranged marriage, what can I do? What's really fascinating is that this arranged marriage that is now 55 years deep has produced 5 successful, happy children, and Mrs. Li can crack as many jokes as she wants to about how she just stayed in it because of the family and that sort of thing. But I can tell when the two of them are together that there is tremendous love between them. I was eager to learn some of Master Li's teachings about acupuncture specifically because we've had a lot of time to talk about herbal medicine and Chinese medicine theory. Master Li, with the assistance of Li Jiren, showed me that by using your body as a measurement, this digit of your thumb can be draped over the skin right there to to localize that point. And then he showed me how to go about inserting the needle with watching the response of the patient. That's a critical piece of knowing that you're doing acupuncture properly, getting the patient's reaction, because you can't feel that you're doing everything perfect just through your fingertips. And you're looking for the patient to describe that they feel some numbness or pain. One of the best things about today was that I actually had a personal consultation with Master Li, where I was the part of one of his patients. He's really a master of pulse diagnosis, which, like acupuncture, is an art that takes years to really perfect. While he was doing this, he asked me several questions, some of them seemingly out of the blue, things I didn't open up and mention to him. So he said things like, do you have pain in your joints? I do have pain in my joints, maybe more so than I would expect for somebody my age, but I didn't mention that to him. That's something that I'm just sort of used to. My joints pop all the time. He was able to detect that in my pulse, actually. So he told me that my kidney qi needed supporting. The kidney in the body in Chinese medicine is where the qi originates. Over the course of one's lifetime, their kidney qi actually slowly decreases. So one of the important concepts in Chinese medicine is to support the kidney qi, because by doing that, the kidney meridian then will move the energy to wherever it needs to go. And then he made some kind of offhand, pretty funny comments about how I need to have sexual practices only in moderation in order to prevent me from having worsening of my symptoms over the course of life. He told me that I need to avoid deep-fried foods and sticky rice. I'm going to follow his advice because he's the master. At the end of our consultation, he got out his prescription pad and wrote me a prescription very thoughtfully of what looks to be about 18 herbs. His son actually has a pharmacy or dispensary, so the family's gonna gather my prescription all together, and tomorrow I'm gonna come back and pick it up so that I can start on this course of treatment that Master Li recommended. So this is a pretty heavy prescription that he's given me. There are at least 15 herbs here. So he's teaching me about each one so that I can know what all of their functions are.
这个塔头山呀，那个很细，它的补的作用啊，跟这个大的山一样，还好一点。太无药，舒肝，哎，太无药。
Okay.
就舒
I don't recognize
肝
this one.、
理气、后胃、上燥。这个药就是我们
上燥，
哎，这上燥的。
Okay.
上燥是泻气的作用好，就比方肚里啊，松的气，肚里发胀啊，胃口不好啊，就去上燥。
With this prescription that Master Li is giving me, I'm going to bring all this medicine back to the States and take this for however much time he recommends that I do. I also have the written out prescription that he gave me, so if I feel like I'm getting out of balance again, I'm going to ask him, is this a treatment that I might go through again? And I can just get my herbs filled in America. Today I was able to ask the man himself a lot of really personal questions to understand what makes him who he is.
我们这个地方啊，像解放以前，
He explained that he grew up in a small village. One of his aunts died when she was really young. That sort of inspired him to be interested a little bit in the beginning. He also was surrounded by a lot of really poor people who didn't have resources. His intuition was to learn how to help them. So he's pretty quick to give credit to his wife for all of his success, actually.
所以他非常辛苦。如果他要不支持我啊，我在这后续就按不下去了，事业就搞不到这个地步。
One of the topics that I most looked forward to talking to Master Li about was where Western and Eastern medicine come together, because this is a passion of mine. Integrative medicine. What can we learn from each other?
中医系
He's still studying Western medicine because he feels like neither Chinese medicine or Western medicine has all the answers. The best approach is really a combined one. It's really fascinating to get his opinion about
the public persona and how that's different from how he feels about himself. He's really the essence of humility, I think. He doesn't consider himself a master at all. In fact, he just described himself as an old nerdy guy who likes to study and will continue to do that until the day that he dies. I had no idea that I was going to be meeting a living master, somebody who would teach me so many lessons about how to live life, how to find compassion in everyday moments, and how to celebrate. I feel just being around him that I want to learn more, that I want to be more open to people who come to see me. I feel that I want to learn how to restore people's health in the same way that he does, not just treat their illnesses. He's a living example of the type of person and doctor that I want to be in my life.
I'll take your job.
It's impossible to put into words what I learned from Master Li. It doesn't have anything to do with anything he told me. It's really just the light that he exudes. I realized that as I'm watching the sunset here. He's like a third grandpa that I didn't have, or the elder on the other side of the world that was here for me to learn from. So I've said my goodbye to him, and hopefully I'll get to see him in the flesh again. But for now, I'll walk with the light that he has put inside of me.